Hi, I'm Karen. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about volume photography. Now, there is so much to talk about that I'm going to divide this up into 4 different videos. With the first video, I'm just kind of giving you an overview of everything, an introduction on the topic, and then I'm going to talk in my second one about preparing for your shoot and all the things that go into that. And then in my third video, I'm going to talk about what you need to consider on the day of your shoot. And then the last one, I will talk about things after the shoot and what you have to do to process and get everything out the door. So in this video, it's just a basic overview. First of all, what is volume photography? You're looking at pretty much anything where you've got a lot of people at one shoot, namely schools, sports. It can be churches, groups of people that everybody needs a photo. Even holiday shoots, like if you want to have Santa pictures for your town, or people just drop by for something where they're just basically getting one photo a piece, or maybe 2, and not meaning like one picture, one print, but more like one pose. And as far as sports go, it might be an individual and then a team photo. So you're basically going to be selling packages of prints to all these different people. As far as numbers go, you may be looking at as small of a group as maybe 5 or 10 people. Maybe it's a really small preschool, or some other group that's smaller, maybe like one sports team, maybe 10 or 15 kids. Or you could be looking at something as large as thousands of kids at a time, or just hundreds of kids at a time, maybe schools or different leagues of teams. It just kind of depends on what you're shooting. So volume photography can really be anything that's a lot of people at the same time. Now, when I started doing this about 5 years ago, somebody in town where I live asked me about shooting their football team. They had about 100, 150 kids, and they said they weren't happy with their current photographer. I'm not sure who they were using at the time, but there were a lot of problems, and so they asked me if I could do it. Well, I went online and couldn't find a lot of information. There just wasn't much out there, and maybe because I was new and inexperienced, I didn't know what to look for. I didn't know what questions I had. I'd never done it before. So I kind of just started doing everything, getting, my hands in there and just trying to make everything work, and we pulled it off. I'm sure we had a lot of issues that nowadays I would, freak out about, but it all worked out. I learned a lot of stuff. We made a lot of mistakes, and it was great. So since then, I've had other teams in town ask me to do their photos, and then other teams, and so it kind of just snowballed from there, and it's worked out really well. It's been, like I said, this is my 5th year doing volume photography, and honestly, that is like the bulk of my income as a full-time photographer, an independent person. I don't work for Lifetouch or any other company that is, a franchise. So for me, I need to find these types of jobs where they're going to pay really well, and maybe they're just one day of a shoot, but you end up working for a couple weeks to get all of that out the door. So I'm going to get into all those details, but if you're looking at how to take on different volume photography jobs, a good place to start is just looking around your community. See what needs there are. If you have kids of your own, if they have sports that they're a part of, maybe talking to some of the board members or people that are in charge and finding out who they currently use. Maybe you've already had your kids have their photos taken during sports events and you weren't happy with them, or you thought, hey, I could do this, or whatever gets you into it. Talk to the people who are in charge of that kind of thing and see if that's something that they're looking for, if they're looking for somebody new. Once I was doing the sports teams around here for a year or 2, I had one of the coaches approach me, and he happened to be the principal at a middle school in a nearby county, and he asked me if we were ready to do school pictures for them and to come talk to them and see if that was something that we were interested in and that we might be able to work out. So we went and sat down and went over all the details, and we ended up getting that account for that year, and it was great. And I'll talk more about that stuff later as far as schools go, because it's quite a bit different, but there are just different points where you can sit down and talk to somebody about all the details, and I'm going to go into what you need to be asking, what questions you'll have, things to consider when you're sitting down to negotiate the terms of the contract that you're going to have with them, those types of things. Now, in this particular town, it's a really small community, and a lot of people just ask you to do the pictures that year. You don't even have to sign a contract. It's not like a year-to-year thing, or it is a year-to-year thing. They just ask you, and if you're available, you do it. But there are many towns where you do sign contracts and you need to get on with them on an annual basis, and there's a lot more legalities to it. So it just depends on where you're at. As far as money goes, it can be a very rewarding but not very exciting field of photography, because you're dealing with a lot of people. They may be spending, you know, anywhere between 10 and 30 or even more dollars per person. Not everybody buys packages, but with the volume, obviously you can make some good money there. It's a little bit different as far as what you have to do to make that money. It's not like you just go out and shoot for 6 hours and all of a sudden you have $5,000. There's a lot that goes into that. So you definitely earn the money that you make with volume photography, but it can be very rewarding if you have the right accounts in place or the right types of shoots. And I'll talk more about that as I go on. So the main thing, if you're not in the sports arena in your own town, if you don't have kids, or if you're not into all of that yet, you can certainly go around to the local schools and the different extracurricular activity places. I know there's like dance schools and taekwondo and, you know, different places where they have groups of kids, and ask if they currently have anybody doing their pictures and if they're interested in that sort of thing. So reaching out to those people in your community or the surrounding communities is a great way to gain those accounts. So again, I'm not going to get into everything right now, but this is kind of an overview, and I will put the next video out very soon. I'll put a link to it in the description once that's available. And I hope you enjoy this. If you have questions, please leave me a comment. I'd be happy to address something in a later video, or to message you directly. Just let me know. Thanks for watching, and I will talk with you again soon.